Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another one of the PALCUS informational webinars. Very excited today because this is the first time we've had an international school in Portugal on as a guest and sharing information about what it is to be an international school, how those schools are different than other schools in Portugal, and what that means for us as Portuguese Americans or anyone else living in a Portuguese community outside of Portugal who might be thinking of making the move and sending our kids to school. And so what are the options there? And so we're thrilled to have the founder, owner, and CEO of the United Lisbon International School, Chitra Stern. We also have Kiriakos Kousaris, who is the Chief Technology Officer for all intents and purposes of the school. And then we have our very own Paul Pereira from New York, who many of you probably know. And it's so nice to have a testimony from someone that we're familiar with and has had experience firsthand with attending and teaching at the school. So we're very, very excited. So I'm going to hand it over to Chitra. And welcome, Chitra. Thank you so much for joining us. Would love for you to jump right in and talk about a little bit about your background, and also how did you come up with this idea for starting an international school?
Thank you very much, Angela. First of all, a big thank you for featuring your first international school in Portugal on PALCUS. So my name is Chitra Stern. I am one of the owners and founders of United Lisbon International School. Together with my husband and business partner, we've been in business in Portugal for 20 years in real estate, in the areas of real estate and hotels. How the whole idea for the international school, for us to enter this business of international schools came about was actually, it started with my SWOT analysis that I did when I was invited to join a foreign direct investment task force set up by the Portuguese Prime Minister back in 2017. And when it was a small task force, and the president of the task force was a good friend of mine as well. He was a previous Secretary of State for Tourism. And he said, so what do you think about foreign direct investment in Lisbon? And actually, the original paper I wrote identified the lack of spaces in international schools and the lack of international schools in general, there had to be more schools to capture all the business interest. If you want to attract companies to base themselves in Lisbon, if you want to, want people to move with the Golden Visa or the D7, you needed more international schools. And this was back in early 2017 that I identified this gap in the market. And if you look at the map of international schools, in addition, all the international schools in the Lisbon area and the greater Lisbon area, for historical reasons, were based on the western side of Greater Lisbon, and there was not a single school in central Lisbon. So, this was another issue that I noticed, and I said, this is not good. And what started out as an identification of a weakness quickly led to a discussion with the mayor of the City Hall of Lisbon. And indeed, there was a gap in the market that had been recognized by the government, especially when we tried to attract the European Medical Agency, and we didn't have enough international schools in Lisbon to hold the kids of the staff of the European Medical Agency. Anyway, fast forward a few months, we were shown a building to invest in. We were expanding our real estate business in Lisbon, and we saw this old building that had been a former private university. And that's when, the lights went on in our heads, said, oh my goodness, this is the future international school that we've been thinking about. The rest was blood, sweat, and tears. We had to make it then happen after the initial aha moment. We had to, get consultants in. We had to build quality team for the educators. Neither of us we have 4 children. We believe in good education. Both our families have invested in our own education, Roman's and mine, and we understand the scene of international schools, understood already back then, but we needed a lot of advice, consulting, partners to make this happen. And that's how we got into building and opening the United Lisbon International School. It wasn't easy because 6 months before opening on the 14th of September last year, something happened on a global scale that we were not expecting. But with true grit and resilience, we were able to manage the opening exactly on time. And we now have 284 kids on board at United Lisbon International School. So
that's amazing. So can you talk a little bit about the programming of the school? And we were talking before we jumped on the live, and there's so many wonderful aspects of the school that seem to really make it such a rich experience to be a student there.
Yeah, I mean, we, at the time we designed the school, we learned a lot. I mean, my husband is Swiss, I'm Singaporean. We believe a lot. I mean, as small nations, you have to look to the outside and really benchmark yourselves. And we visited several schools on an international level, actually, to understand what the global landscape looked like. And we also learned a lot about education and what the future needs are of students. How should students be prepared, with this future of machine learning and artificial intelligence taking over, existing jobs? We actually, at that time, I think 2 years ago, there was the World Economic Forum, Education 4.0. And, that report from the World Economic Forum had a lot of pointers already as to what should be. So we designed the vision from what we knew, what we observed with our children, how we saw the future. And we for example, technology was clearly important. An important aspect of a child's learning is not just about, learning coding for a couple of years. It has to be inbuilt, in the whole curriculum from a young age. Languages are important. Learning, project-based learning, collaboration, resilience. I mean, we were just discussing before, Paul brought up a report, which I'm sure, he can talk about when he's on. There are several skills that are important, and we've really tried to integrate all these elements into the curriculum. So coding and tech are compulsory till grade 10, for example. And we've actually got a tech director, a tech lead on board, which is not normal in an international school. We have got drama that's compulsory till grade 10 as well, because we believe that, the ability to present your case, communication is one of the key areas for the future. Understanding, the target segment you're communicating to, having empathy, putting yourself in other people's shoes, understanding different cultures. So the various elements that have come together, in this vision. And I'm proud to say we've built a fantastic team there. And, you can have a look. I can share the screen. I mean, I encourage you to look at our website, which has a lot of information. I'm just gonna, make sure. Is this correct? Screen 1, yes. So can you see my screen yet? No, not yet. Share. You should be seeing.
Yep, there we go. We can see it now.
This is our website. Go back to landing page. So it's unitedlisbon.school, and the several pages, but you get an idea of what our school looks like. We've invested in great hardware as well. Great facilities. The classrooms are all designed, inspired actually, by this Italian system that a lot of people speak about, where there's transparency between the corridor and the rooms, Reggio Emilia, and you've got great labs, great makerspace, great art rooms, and sports fields. We're an urban international school, but we've invested in serious facilities. But we're also, part of the vision is to being an urban school. We're not in a bubble, and we can actually work together with institutions around us to help make this a great program. So, if we start, first of all, you can find out who is behind the school, part of the team. You've got, clarity on who our teachers are, what their experience is. So this you'll see very soon Kiriakos here as well, whom I'll be handing over to in a second, or maybe a minute once I just finish this. There's Paul as well here. So we've got a very international faculty. A third of our faculty is actually Portuguese, but half of them really have had experience in various other countries. So we have a truly international team, firmly rooted in international education. We have got a wonderful campus. You can find out more about the campus on the campus page, and there's lots of photographs to show you, all the great facilities and what goes on in the school. Proud to say that we've got, our own kids here. We use our own kids as models, actually. So you'll see. We get the consent from the parents, clearly, and we've also focused on a very rich extracurricular program, which is not just a babysitting service. We work together with local institutions, the Sporting Club of Portugal. Everyone knows this face, a younger version of Cristiano Ronaldo. That's his club. We have football lessons on site. We work together with the Sporting Club de Portugal to achieve that. We work together with Technical Rugby, which is Portugal's top rugby team, also to deliver rugby at our school. We work together with the Lisbon Racket Center. So, we've got various partners to make these extracurricular activities, excellent. Instead of just sort of killing time, we've got martial arts. There's a lot. Languages, extra third language, because second language is Portuguese at the school. First, obviously, being English, but kids can take up a third language, and we have a good external provider for that. So that's a quick intro to our school, and there are videos on there you can find. And another big differentiator is really having the education hub. We've conceived this. The school is only the first part of our wider project. There is phase 2 that we're focusing on now, which is the rest of the education hub, the United Lisbon Education Hub, which will have tenants who are tech companies and other kinds of companies who will be involved in this ecosystem of learning. Also addressing, shadowing projects, internships, inspiring speeches, how do they contribute to the community? What is their corporate social responsibility? We've got an Embrace program, which helps kids every week it's compulsory, and it's modeled on the community activity and service of the IB, but we bring it down to younger kids. Where they understand, a lot about real life, about community service, humanitarian projects. We work together with the Red Cross, for example. So there's a ton of stuff that we do that's really that differentiates us from other international schools, apart from our great location, which is 5 minutes from the airport and on the eastern side of Lisbon. So, I've gone on for quite a bit now. We'll wait for the questions. Let me now hand over to Kiriakos, who is our technology lead at the school. You can find out more about him on the website, where I just pointed out who we are, and then you look at the faculty of teachers. He's got a fantastic curriculum. Originally a musician, and then became a went into tech. A great example of what, you're talking about range. There's a great book called Range where you build skills in different areas, and Kiriakos is a great example. He's a Microsoft expert in Minecraft education as well, and together with the team has successfully gotten us accredited as a Microsoft Showcase school. Now that's news from last week. So hand over to you, Kiriakos. Thank you.
Well, you said the key words with Minecraft educators, so I think that's going to resonate very well with all the kids.
True, it is. So some keywords do make all the difference. It's true. Thank you so much, Chitra, for the introduction. Thank you for having me here. It is a pleasure to be here. And yes, just to follow up on what Chitra was saying, my name is Kiriakos. I'm the technology lead here at United Lisbon International School, having a role which is it's a very recent role, let's say. It's not a very usual role in schools when it comes to what technology integration is all about in K-12 institutions. And obviously, being a school that wants to, let's say, it has technology as one of the pillars across all educational, administrative, and operational processes. We want to make sure that the whole community is being supported and educated and trained properly. Let me start by saying that, going a bit back to what Chitra mentioned a moment ago, we had to open a school in peak pandemic. So obviously, schools before that were struggling to change into online learning, bring the technologies of the future in the present, not just the hardware, but the mindset as well. And we went forward opening a school based on the new status quo, based on this is a reality, this will come back in different ways. Online learning is here to stay. We're not just talking about giving classes at home, but providing the access and the opportunities to every type of student, every type of family, to be able to have access to quality and high level education. And that was our compromise. That was what we said. We're going to be on the forefront of what tools, what accesses, what technologies we want our community to have access to. And obviously, Chitra mentioned everything starts with the student, everything starts with the curriculum. We want to make sure that our students are gaining and are harnessing, developing the skills that we need in the future as we go in, where coding, for example, is being considered as important as reading, writing, and arithmetics. At the same time, we want to provide students the experiences and access to technologies that maybe 5 or 10 years ago, they were too complicated or too expensive to acquire. This is why we made certain that a makerspace, something that is it's very popular. I know that it's very popular and very well established in countries like the United States, Australia as well. Singapore also has it's a curriculum that puts a lot of value in spaces like that. Not that common in Europe, but we wanted to make sure that we offer a space where students, the community, can go in and have access to the tools as like a 3D printer, a laser cutter, modular robotics, robots, drones, not simply in terms of, obviously the first step is to have a first contact, but to provide the students the opportunity to understand how can these tools scale up and offer solutions in the real world. And this is where curriculum, interdisciplinary learning, and the space come together. We put a lot of effort in helping in training our teachers, in bringing over quality content so that students can make the bridge, make the connection of what they're learning right now and how does that apply in real life. It's not just abstract experiences. It's not just a superficial contact with a concept or or a tool is how and who does this help eventually? And we put a lot of effort in that. And this is, Chitra mentioned it, and I'm very proud to say that we've been recognized as a school that excels in technology integration, not just because we were able to invest in technology per se as it is. It's not about how you're going to do it, it's why you're doing it. And there's a lot of areas we still need to improve. Becoming a Microsoft Showcase school, for example, is not about going through a list of, it's a knowledge that you tick around and be like, done, I've made it, now you give me, I can have that certification. We are identified with the help of with the experts, which areas are we doing well, which areas we need to improve, so that we can be an example, so that we can pass over our experience and our results and what we're doing to others as well. Because again, it's not about doing it for ourselves, by ourselves, and only for this community. It's about exposing that to the world and bringing everyone on the same page. And sorry,
just one comment. So I love hearing all of that, because I live in Silicon Valley, and knowing how prevalent, all these technologies that you're talking about, right? It's the future, and it's not just for fun. And so I think starting as early as possible, children need to be not only exposed to the technologies, but shown how do you build a career around these technologies. You can be an entrepreneur, or you can join a company, but there has to be something that gives them that direction and shows them that that's the possibility, right? Also, because there are so many career possibilities nowadays. I mean, you literally could do anything, compared to 20 years ago. There's all sorts of new jobs and new careers, and people are reinventing themselves every day. Just from some of the young people that I know that are graduating high school or even graduating college, they seem a little lost, and not quite sure, what am I going to do with my life? So I think, the earlier that they can have this kind of exposure, I think is so incredibly important and helpful. So it's wonderful to see.
I'd just like to jump in a little bit there. Sorry, Paul, a lot of it is definitely about cross-disciplinary learning, but this exposure you're talking about, I mean, that's where the education hub will come in quite a lot. We feel, America is a country, the US, you've got children working and earning money, and they're, starting to get experience. In Portugal, we'd like to promote that much more, but in a structured way. I mean, apart from career counseling and college guidance, is really for these kids to get the opportunity to do shadowing projects from a younger age, internships.
Yeah, that's great.
Different industries from a younger age. So they really understand, have the hands-on experience, at least a little bit. I mean, you're not going to obviously, be able to give them a 1 year's experience, but, encourage a gap year as well, and have a structured gap year, connect to those gap year programs out there. We will be working together with the Medic portal and the Law portal, which are new tech, EdTech businesses, where kids understand how to get into medical college, what experiences that they need to fulfill. And these portals have connections to law firms and medics, and it's crafting the experience as well, and 16 is too young actually to choose those subjects and understand, but the more you give them upfront and the confidence to give them, do a gap year if necessary. There's no one path to Rome. There are many paths to Rome, and Rome wasn't built in a day. So I think these are some of the key things. Sorry, I know it's Paul's turn to talk now. Would you like to do the intro to Paul, or
Sure.
Yeah, I'm very
Or-
proud to have gotten to know Paul, by the way. I mean, he's officially the ULIS ambassador, but I'll let you make the intro. It's been a great pleasure, really, to meet Paul.
Yeah, no, so many of you out there watching may recognize Paul's face. He's been not only a guest on our sessions in the past, but he's very involved in the Portuguese community in New York. And you're going to forgive me, Paul. I'm blanking on your official title, Deputy Mayor, right? Of Mineola, right? And so not only that, but you took advantage of the pandemic to take your family and go live in Portugal for a few months, and you discovered ULIS. And so you're going to tell us about your experience.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Shitra. Great to see you again, Kiriakos. Yeah, as Angela said, I've lived in the United States for 44 years now. I moved here with my family in 1977. So my entire life essentially has been spent in the United States. And I teach here at Mineola High School. I just started last week, my 29th year teaching. But of course, I love Portugal and all things Portugal. And last year when the pandemic hit, and I think that my story may resonate with people out there who are watching or listening, who are thinking about perhaps a temporary move like I did, or a permanent move, or exploring the possibilities. And I think you will find that my example, first of all, if there's one thing that if you get anything out of this from my perspective, is that you can do it. You can do it. If you dream it, believe it, you can achieve it, right? So during the pandemic, my elderly parents live in Portugal, and I thought that it was important that I spend some time with them and that I be close to them and that I help them in any way that I could. Unfortunately, where we live in Portugal, we do not have any international schools nearby. So it had to essentially be Lisbon. So we lived in Lisbon, and then we would commute on weekends and on school holidays back to my parents' home to be with them, to spend time with them, and for my children to spend time with them. But I won't get into too much how I landed there, but by chance, by luck, by kismet, as Shitra likes to say, ULIS and I were united. Originally, I was just looking for a school to have my children attend. And as Shitra mentioned, what's great about ULIS is its location. For a family, you could not think of a better location. It's on the east side or north side of Lisbon. You're literally, 2 or 3 subway stops away from historic center of Lisbon. You're a 10-minute drive from the center of Lisbon, but yet you are in this kind of family-friendly, safe, new neighborhood, Parque das Nações, about 25 years old. You have shopping, you have transportation, you have the Tejo River. You are 10, 15 minutes away from the south side of the river, from Alcochete and Moita and Palmela and those areas. So, and again, if you are going north like I was, you are right at the entrance to the A1. So you couldn't ask for a better location. And that is also where we chose to live, in Parque das Nações. So it's a great place to live, it's a great place to work, and it's a great place to go to school. My experience then, it just worked out that ULIS was looking for a humanities teacher while I was there. So it worked out for them. It worked out wonderfully for me. And I tell you, it really was a life-altering experience for myself. And for my children, especially. They did not want to come back to the United States. They wanted to stay there. They want to go back as soon as they can. And to that end, I am working. And by the way, I'm so glad that Shitra and Jose asked me to be the ULIS ambassador to the United States, because I would have been it anyway, because I certainly would have promoted the school, the staff, the vision, the experience, the city. But I'm glad that officially I am the ULIS ambassador. And so if anyone has any questions, you can reach out to me on Facebook or through any other way, or through PALCUS. I'm also a proud member of PALCUS. And I'll be glad to give you more specifics on how this may work, because of course it does take some planning. to pick up your family and to move. And for me, it was easier because I am a Portuguese citizen. My wife is a Portuguese citizen. My children have Portuguese citizenship. So it's certainly easier. But I know that the school will work with you if you contact the school to help you along those lines in terms of finding a place to live and any documentation that you may need and that kind of thing. But what I found, of course, I think what I've been talking to people is just the experience that my children had. So I'll take my son, for example, Andrew, who is 15 now. He was in 9th grade last year. In his class of 20 students, we had 11 different nations represented. We had 5 different continents. We had kids from North America, South America, Africa, Asia, and Europe. And we had 9 different languages spoken, although everyone obviously speaks English very, very, very well. So just that would be enough of an experience, right? To have this opportunity to be exposed to children from all over the world. And then my colleagues are also from all over the world. You have Kiriakos here, who's from Cyprus. I work with people from Ireland, from the United States, from Canada, from Italy, from Brazil, from South Africa. And that's a great experience. But beyond that, I think the vision of the school, of being the school that not only obviously there's a huge investment in the facilities. I mean, the facilities are second to none. The school is beautiful. It's new. It's got every amenity you can think of, from the athletic fields to the classrooms to the technology, to the physical plant, parking underneath. It's well manicured, for sure. So your first intro to the school, and everything is transparent. Shitra mentioned about transparency, literally glass everywhere, opening everywhere, this sense of bringing people together, not, dividing people off. I also like the fact that my 3 children in 3 different levels got to attend school together. So being a pre-K through, now it's 10th grade, but eventually be through 12th grade, as a parent, if you have more than one child, it's certainly nice to be able to drop them off at one place, all of them, pick up one place, all of them, and they interact. Right. And I also have to give a plug to the canteen, to the cafeteria, because the food is amazing. So if anyone's thinking about that, your children will eat well, they will be well fed. And of course, there's a lot of opportunities after school. But going back to the vision, I think that clearly Shitra, Kiriakos, Jose, the leadership team, Roman, have seen that the future the future of education looks very different from the past of education, even the recent past of education. This is the future. And the fact that ULIS is able to essentially learn from other international schools what works and what doesn't, and have the flexibility to be able to build from the ground up, literally. I know that last year we used the first 3 floors of the school building. This year we'll use the 4th floor as we grow. The school is expanding, building a theater, building an indoor gymnasium. So we are in a unique position to be able to grow with the school, with changes in education that perhaps other international schools that are more established are not able to do that. I'll leave it for any questions that anyone has. But I think one thing that needs to be mentioned is that the school next year will become an IB school. And for anyone coming from the United States, or really from anywhere else, if your children are concerned about rigor and going to college and pursuing advanced learning, the rigor will be there. Officially, internationally recognized baccalaureate program. And I think that Shitra touched on the social emotional learning part of it. SEL is a big part of education as well. It's not just technology. Teaching young boys and girls to be lifelong learners and positive contributors to a global society is important, not just coding. And I think the part about drama and music, we have some very, very passionate teachers in that area. Andrea does a great job with our music program. And I know that there's a big, and even Kiriakos, as Shitra mentioned, although he's our tech guru, he comes really from a musical background. So he invests heavily in that. And I can also add that many of the teachers that have school-age children choose to have their children attend the school. And that's the best form of, I think, owning it, is having, when you have the founder, CEO, and owner of the school's child in school, they believe in it. They're not just going to put their child there for no reason. If I own a restaurant, I'm going to eat there, right? Because I believe in the quality of the food, and I was proud to have my children attend because the staff was amazing. The facility was amazing. The experience was amazing. So I know that my relationship with Ulyss is not over, but certainly if anyone has any questions about my specific experience, I would be glad to answer. But I highly, highly recommend it. If you can, do it, plan ahead. And I know that Ulyss will welcome you with open arms.
Wow.
I just wanted to say thank you so much, Paul, for that testament. And, it's an honor to be working with you, really. And yes, 2 of my children are there now, just to, we've got 4 kids in total. We didn't build the school for our children, but I'm proud to say that 2 of our kids are there because we completely believe in what we're doing there. And just a comment about the canteen, this is one of the issues in many other schools, that the food is, we're in Portugal where the ingredients are amazing, the food is amazing, the quality of food is amazing, and we definitely want to bring that into our school. So we're working with an excellent outsourcing company, constantly responding to the new age of food dietary requirements. We've got good vegetarian options and good meat options as well. And in fact, kids get to choose every week at the weekend what they would like to eat, and it's all possible with technology and planning, that they really get to choose what they eat, and by Monday we're ready to deliver that. So just wanted to comment on that. It's an important part. I mean, we're humans, and
absolutely, lunch is one of the most important things, especially when you have a picky eater.
And I'll also say,
sure,
one of the great things that for us coming from the United States, it was different and it was great, is they use silverware. They eat on real plates, and they have glasses.
Wow.
So that too is part of learning and treating them like adults, and they have vegetables, and they have meat, and they have fish, and they sit down and they eat, and they are given their own utensils. So right from first grade on. So even those little things,
make a big difference. Yeah.
Big difference. And I also mentioned that obviously, up until, I think, Kiriakos, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think up until 3rd or 4th grade, the students are provided with a laptop by the school, and from 5th grade on, it's BYOD. You bring your own device. So obviously, the facilities can accommodate all the need for Wi-Fi and all of that. So as a teacher, it was great to be able to have that kind of flexibility through Microsoft Teams, but in the classroom itself, from cameras to microphones and Promethean screens in every single room. So it was, and furniture that is movable, and furniture that is adaptable to your class, and not the traditional kind of just a desk and a seat in a row, but you're able to, and the library, all of that. But I'll stop, and if anyone has any questions, you can see excitement.
I can sense it. Well, and so we do have some questions, but I just want to say that, when I graduated from school, I never wanted to go back. I was one of those that was just said, I'll never be a student again. But after this presentation, I actually want to go back to grammar and high school just to experience this school. I mean, it just sounds amazing. I'm going to start with one of our attendees on Zoom who's raised her hand, Natasha. I'm going to open up the microphone, Natasha. So if you want to take yourself on mute and ask your question, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you very much. And first of all, huge congratulations to Chitra, and, thank you for having me. Daniela let me know about the webinar, so I'm excited to hear a little bit more of Ulyss, and I'm going to be learning in the coming days and weeks and months about the project. So I'm thrilled. But Paul, just hearing about your experience as you as an the official ambassador, and just hearing your passion come through about moving your family to Portugal and your own experience. What do you think, pandemic aside, which obviously been a very challenging time, but also things are starting to come back to a bit of normality across the US, across the world, we hope. But what do you think are going to be those main decision drivers as things even come back to normality in the US for a family to decide to still make this jump? And perhaps related to family experiences like what you had, or is it something else? What could be those big decision drivers that you feel?
Well, I certainly think that, first of all, I will say this, that when we approached our children, this took several months of planning between myself taking a leave of absence from my job here and my wife taking a leave of absence from her job, and obviously taking my children out of school. So my son, who was 14 at the time, he was in 9th grade, super excited to go to Portugal, was all in. My middle daughter, who was in 6th grade, complete opposite, did not want to go, was upset, was angry with us. First week there, I want to go back home. Second week there, I don't want to go back to the United States. I want to.
Wow.
So number one advice is, if there's nothing else that I've learned in 29 years in education, is children are resilient. And if you just give them time, they will adapt, and they will see what you see, even if they don't see it for themselves. So there will be challenges along the way. There will be people that will say, you can't do it. And there will be certainly obstacles, and you have to kind of plow through it. You have to have that vision. That's number one. Number two, of course, is your job. Does your job, where are you in relationship to financial security? Are you close to retirement, or are you at a crossroads? Are you looking to change jobs? Do you have the ability to work remotely, permanently? Obviously, I did not have that ability as a teacher here in the United States. And I'm, about 5 years from retirement with a really nice pension from New York State. Thank you. I was not in the position to make a move permanently. And also my political role as deputy mayor of the village of Mineola, I was able to do that remotely, thanks to the pandemic and thanks to technology. But certainly that wouldn't be something that I could do permanently remotely. So for me, it was an experience, and I think that I got out of it everything that I expected to, and then some. I got to spend really quality time with my parents who lived there permanently. My children got to get closer to their grandparents. And then, of course, the experience at Euless just was everything that I had hoped for. And I know that my children will never, ever, ever forget this. My son, who was already, all in, is now into exploring going to college in Portugal. And something that everyone that's listening here should know is that 7% of all admissions to Portuguese public universities are reserved to children of Portuguese immigrants. So your path to university is easier and certainly more cost effective, shall we say. So
yeah,
Natasha,
significantly.
yes, I'm not sure if I answered your question completely, but it does depend where you are financially. Obviously, Portuguese salaries are not, unfortunately, in line with what we're used to here in the United States. And in Lisbon, real estate can be, Lisbon's hot, literally. So then figuratively.
I'd just like to jump in there a little bit, Paul. I mean, to say that, that was very, you had to organize quite a lot, and that, hats off to you for doing that. I think change is always difficult for children, obviously. I mean, my kids had to move from the Algarve, the International School in the Algarve, or British International School, to the American International School here. And there were tears initially. Why have we moved? What are we doing? And even my two children who moved to United Lisbon, despite all, they saw it coming together, they saw it being built, they know about, what's happening. My little son, who's in grade 5, shed a tear on one of the days, second day at school, because, obviously change is difficult. But, there are, just with this change, I'd just like to add to that, change is the norm. I mean, we've seen what's happened with the pandemic, and I think it's good for children to understand what change is about and how to face it. It helps them build resilience. So that's one of my comments on that for sure. But this whole, I mean, I've done a TEDx talk on why Portugal is trending. So please do have a look at that. I'll put the link on the chat, which I did 2 years ago. So that was pre-pandemic. And the bottom line is that the society here, it's the secret. I mean, the lifestyle's great. It's so well connected. There's several reasons, and I go through all of that. But the real secret is that the Portuguese are so welcoming, friendly, open, tolerant. You feel right at home here, which I think is hard to find in other places. And I think that doesn't get talked about much in brochures, or, when you look at sort of statistics of immigration, investment immigration and other such immigration programs. Obviously here, a lot of Americans are moving over on the D7 visa now, and I'm sure PALCUS knows about that. And the people who have a Portuguese passport don't need it, but there are other Americans moving here on the D7 visa. 20% of our new enrollments are from the United States at our school right now. So there's even more Americans there now, Paul, than there were last year. And this is growing. There's a tendency here right now where families are moving here. And as Paul pointed out, the PALCUS and Sonhos area is a very family-friendly district. I heard the president of the Junta de Freguesia, what is the English word for that? The Junta is like sorry?
Yeah, it's like the mayor of the town or the village.
District. Yeah, it's not the city, but it's the district. Has it has the highest growth for families, children and families. So it's an extremely family-friendly district. And I'm proud to say that 25% of our enrollment is actually Portuguese, which says a lot, I think, about how Portuguese people view our international school. And I'm delighted to see that, because, it's not a place where American families or Canadian families, we've got 30 plus nationalities in the school now. They're going to get an international experience, preparing them for entry into, Portuguese universities, but also universities abroad, American, British, European. But they also get the integration into Portuguese society, especially, not just the Portuguese kids in the school, but also through the community activity service, elements of the school. The Portuguese society is a wonderful society, and hats off to your society here, Paul. I mean, you're American and Portuguese. I'm Singaporean, Indian, British, and Swiss, and living in Portugal. So, one of the great things here is it's a cosmopolitan place, actually, Lisbon. There are people coming from all over the world moving here for all these great features, and characteristics of Lisbon and Portugal as a society. So very proud to be part of it. And, I really would say there are various families moving here. I can put another link on the chat, why Lisbon is going to be even more popular in the post-COVID world, and investing in Lisbon. I call it work, live, love. It's a place that you're going to love. It's not just a place to work or live. And that's my sort of tagline: work, live, love. And we have done all our investments in this area of Lisbon now, and I truly think it's the best area. We've got the school, the education hub. We've done a commercial building, but also a branded residences building, because we truly believe in this area being the best area for families as well.
So to that point, we actually have another question via Zoom. And thank you, Natasha, for your question and for joining us today. And then there's also a question on Facebook, which is about, what are the requirements to become a teacher for ULIS? But there's also a question about why Lisbon and not Porto. because Porto is kind of like, the kind of popular up and coming. And the person says, I guess I'm just trying to be sold on Lisbon versus Porto. So if you could talk
That's
a little bit
easy.
about.
I'll take the easy question and then I'll,
Okay.
Porto is a beautiful city, an amazing city. I've lived so far 15 years in the Algarve and 5 years here in the Lisbon area, in the greater Lisbon area. And Lisbon's a capital city. So for me, the greater connectivity of Lisbon, and I'll say the climate too. I'm sorry to say the climate is better in Lisbon versus Porto. And you're not far from Porto here. I mean, being in Lisbon, you're in the center. So it's a 3-hour drive, an easy train ride by, the train system in Portugal, connecting the north and the south is great. And where the school is 5 minutes from the main transport hub for Portugal, Parque das Nações, Park of Nations, where Paul, was living, sorry. So it's easy to get to the south as well as the north from Lisbon. And I would say, this area is so well connected, not just with public transport, but highways to the north and the south. And I think there's huge value to be located in the center of the country. So that's sort of my pitch for Lisbon.
And if I could add, absolutely, because my parents are from Aveiro. And so I would leave on most Fridays right after school at about 4 o'clock, and I would be home, my parents' home, in time for dinner. My wife did some yoga training in the Algarve, and on weekends, I would get in the car at 4 o'clock, and I would be in time to have dinner with her in the Algarve. So you're about 2 hours and 10 minutes from Albufeira, and you're about 2 hours and 30 minutes from Porto. And, Lisbon is just centrally located, like Chitra said. And then there's I think that, and I love Porto, trust me, I adore Porto for.
So do I.
there are a myriad of reasons why Porto is amazing. But I think that Lisbon is the place, it's the hub. It's where a lot of international business is being done. It's, I look at Porto and I think of Porto internationally. I think of British people merely because of the port wine industry and their history, their footprint there. And Lisbon, you have people from Finland, from Singapore, from South Africa, from Brazil, from everywhere. I just think that Lisbon is much more cosmopolitan in that regard. And Lisbon is also much more prepared to be that much more cosmopolitan. And I think the Park of Nations is named the Park of Nations for a reason. It's obviously the site of the 98 World's Fair, but beyond that, it is the hub of where businesses that are looking to establish a footprint in Portugal, this is where they are going. Because it was, in a way, it wasn't exactly a blank canvas, before 1998, but it was about as close as you can get to a blank canvas in a metropolitan area, and Porto is densely populated, densely built. So for those reasons, nothing against Porto, but Lisbon and this location of the school. And for families, I can tell you I was completely at ease letting my children go out to go to the mall, to Vasco da Gama, to go grab a bite to eat, to meet their friends at the park in Parque das Nações. I mean, there are always people around. It's safe. It's pedestrian friendly. They get the Lime scooters and they walk around. It's tough to do that in the historic center of Lisbon, and it's certainly tough to do that in the city of Porto, to have that kind of security and still yet be not in the suburbs. You are in Lisbon. It's not like you're driving 40 minutes to get to Baixo Chiado. You're there. Sometimes I would just go with my wife for a coffee after dinner to Chiado, 10 minutes away.
So close by. Yeah, I mean, and even, my 15-year-old daughter has been on the subway, the metro, as we call it here, with her friends. It's so safe and secure, visiting her friend in Ratu, and then took the metro to, sorry, I mixed up subway, metro, tube, the metro to Parc des Nações, where another friend lived. And, I met her there after work, because all our new projects there spend a lot of time in Parc des Nações, Park of Nations. And safety and security are a huge factor. I mean, we haven't talked about it much, but, one of the other key reasons is compared to so many other cities in the world, it's safe and secure for kids to walk out the door, go down to the ice cream shop. I mean, there's a book about, urban areas for families to live in. I can't remember the name of it, but it has something called, they talk about the popsicle principle. So cities where your kid can walk out the door, go get a popsicle and come back in complete safety and within, 10, 15 minutes. And that is what you get here, because the area is one of the great examples in the world of a modern urban regeneration program out there still. We get visitors from all over the world coming to visit the local, councillor and get tours of it, because it's a very futuristic place, well-organized place to live in.
But can I just say, as a parent, the concept of, so our daughter's 8, and the concept of her being able to, even just to the corner by herself to buy a popsicle is just like, no way, I would never let her do that. Like, at least here, right? So just trying to wrap my head around the fact that that's actually something that's possible there. I mean, it's like very hopeful, but it's also very, really?
No, it is.
Like,
well, you have to visit, Angela.
Yeah, well, I've been
to a tour.
Lisbon. Yeah, well, so I've been to Lisbon many times, and the Parc des Nações. But yes, the next time I'm there, we'll definitely do a tour. So we do have a couple more questions, and we still didn't address the requirements to become a teacher for the school. Yeah. So if we could do that, and then also on the flip side, if you could talk a little bit about the application process for students. That's going to push us beyond the hour. Hopefully you can stay on for a little bit longer.
I'll quickly touch. I'll quickly touch on both application processes. I mean, on our website, you'll find a link. I think it's recruitment@unitedlisbon.school, or at least if you write to info@unitedlisbon.school and mark your subject, application, CV, resume, as you call it in America, it'll get to the right place. We are looking for teachers with international experience, or bring something to the table, for all the things we've spoken about, as well as for the IB years now. We're building up the IB program, so experience in the International Baccalaureate is welcome. But I would say, send your CV, and really José Azcue, our head of school, will look at it, and I know he interviews quite a lot of people, so do send us the CV. And for applications, there's an application process. You can write to admissions@unitedlisbon.school and set up an online interview first. We do school visits. If you're around and you want to drop in, do write to admissions@unitedlisbon.school. We'll squeeze you in for a school visit. There's nothing like visiting the school itself, because you can have all the online information, but doing a school tour with one of the ladies and meeting the teachers, going to the makerspace, for example, meeting José Azcue, meeting some of the other teachers, you really get a feel for what's happening there, and visiting on site. But do send us your applications. We've opened applications already, and we've got actually children enrolled for the next academic year, for September 22, sorry.
That's
September
amazing.
2022. next year, and we're open also to take on a few students in January, because some school years in the world end in December, like in Brazil and South Africa, and we are taking a few students in January. So, you know, there is a process to go through. It's interview as well as simple tests. You know,
so there are placement, like a placement test.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We're going to go to Zoom again. We have another attendee who has a question. So Francis Baca, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Hi, thank you. This is so inspiring. You've sold me. I'm ready to go home and
I know, right?
My question for you has to do with social emotional learning. It seems like you have a very rigorous academic program, and certainly the kids are going to be good learners, but I'd like to hear your thoughts about how you teach kids to be good humans and good citizens in the world. Thank you. Together.
Maybe Kiriakos can talk about embrace with that.
I'd love to. Excellent question. Social emotional learning is something that's been talked to a lot nowadays, and obviously it's becoming a let's say a necessity of skills that we need to introduce to our students and teachers and the school community in general, because it's what defines us eventually as humans. Let me start first by saying that we always aim, generally speaking, in terms of the way we deliver curriculum and aiming to the IB program, we're looking at the holistic education. And a holistic education is not only based on skills, it's based on what kind of impact as a person you will have in the future and the community you'll be part of. And for that, we specifically have two important aspects of our daily lives here at school. One, as Paul mentioned, is the Embrace program. It's our weekly exploration of community and integration into social environments with our students. We make a big effort to have students have a contact with inspirational speakers from outside that tell their story, tell how they've helped their community to grow, tell what were the difficulties they've had, personal difficulties, deep characteristic difficulties or challenges they've had throughout their, let's say, their establishing their place under the sun, as we say. But at the same time, we try to involve students with the local community through projects, through community support. We've recently put together a protocol, not just in a social aspect, but cross countries, with the school with a foundation in the Republic of Congo, the Malaga Foundation, where we try to connect our students to understand the realities of their peers in different conditions and how education and community affects them. We have a full-time specialist here at school that guides a well-being class, a weekly well-being class. Is a professional psychologist that accompanies not just individually the students, but also puts a lot of effort and resources in building a flexible curriculum in how students can express themselves and understand what social emotional learning is all about. Put honesty in front of everything, make sure that opinion is valued, and that learning is something very, very, very deep and personalized. So I think between all these areas that we promote, there's a lot of work to be done, obviously. Yeah, this is an area that requires a lot of effort from the community, but we do place a lot of attention to it.
I'd just like to add, Kiriakos, I mean, the Embrace program is actually based on the community activity and service, which is part of the IB, the International Baccalaureate. One of the reasons why we chose the IB versus the A levels, which is the British last 2 years of qualification pre-university, is because the IB focuses on the holistic. You have to do some art, some sciences, a language, and math. You can't just specialize in 3 or 4 core subjects already. And community activity service is part of the qualification for the IB. There's theory of knowledge, CAS as they call it, and the extended essay on one of your higher level subjects. And this creates all-round students. And our school has taken the CAS element and brought it down to younger students, which is the Embrace program, which is compulsory. It's once a week. And we also have signed a protocol with the Red Cross. So, we closely follow international humanitarian issues, challenges. Their humanitarian chair came to speak to our students for one of the Embrace sessions. We participate in the refugee. We've, worked with them on the refugee program in Portugal. The Red Cross of Portugal has worked closely with the Ministry of Labour and Social Security to receive refugees from Lesbos Island in Greece, for example. So, and it now continues. They're raising funding for refugee women and children, and we will participate in that fundraising. It's one of the reasons why we named the school United is really, we believe strongly as the founders that it's through being united that we can solve the global problems such as sustainability, global warming, global cybersecurity, poverty, education for all. So, there's a lot of elements to it. And I mean, I'm receiving emails from my 5th grade homeroom teacher, from my youngest son, about empathy and how they're learning about empathy. It's ingrained throughout the years, what learning is all about. For example, they're doing a whole semester now about learning, what makes learning conducive, what not, why do we learn? So there's a lot of, it's not a separate session on social emotional, but it actually is woven throughout, I would say, the curriculum. I mean, if any of our teachers sees a bullying incident, I know what happens in our school. They're on it. The kids teach each other, about, social emotional learning. And so I think there's a lot that happens, and it's woven into the fabric, into the DNA of the vision. So I hope that answers your question in a, from different perspectives.
We have another question, and thank you, Francis, for the question, and thank you for attending. Just a quick clarification question from Facebook about International Baccalaureate. Is that high school only? What does that mean for the school?
It is, we chose to have the IB diploma only, and not go for the PYP and MYP. First of all, it actually gives a lot more flexibility for the kids coming in at different ages, because that's what we have. We have families relocating at different ages, and for them to actually integrate into the MYP especially is quite difficult, from another system. We do focus a lot on, I mean, the IB diploma is what a lot of people are looking for, and I truly believe it is a great preparation for those 2 years. A lot of the stuff we do in primary, for example, is PYP compatible. As that's what we've discussed in our executive meetings, and José Ascue, as the educator, says that. The MYP program, which is what people are also talking about, is quite difficult for someone coming in from outside to integrate into that. And I think this gives us the flexibility by focusing on an international American curriculum based on various other elements, and will be NEASC approved. We've built some bits from the Common Ground Collaborative, and and we've added a higher quality of math teaching in grades 9 and 10 to prepare the kids for the IB, because the IB is actually quite a rigorous program. And, even standard level math, there's 2 levels of math, standard level and higher level. And there's 2 kinds of math you can do, are quite demanding. And what we're focusing on is actually preparing the kids better than another kind of curriculum for IB diploma math. So, we've made the vision slightly different, I must say, to make sure, these other elements come together. We're able to integrate students coming from different other systems, the British system. I mean, we've got some embassy folk joining our school. We've got, people relocating from the US, South Africa, even the UK now, Hong Kong, to Lisbon. And they need to be able to integrate into our system and then get prepared for the IB. And we really suggest, if you want to do the IB diploma, that you join us either in 9th or 10th grade already, so that you have a good preparation for the IB diploma. Hope that answers your question. If anyone else would like to add something to that.
That's great. Thank you so much. Well, we have gone beyond the hour, and I'm not surprised because there's so much to talk about here. And I think there are still questions. In fact, we had a request in the chat that if everybody could provide their contact information, because if they have further questions, Paul, they'd like to hear a little bit more about your experience as a parent. So if there's maybe some general information that we could not only post in the chat, but we'll post in the Facebook comments for the school, that would be great. And we'll tag you, Paul, on Facebook so that people can reach out to you there.
You can tag me too on Facebook.
Okay, great.
I'm not very good at replying quickly to Facebook Messenger. I mean, if there's anything about the school, please do write to admissions@unitedlisbon.school, because you'll get an answer quickly. But do tag me. I try my best to keep up on the various channels. Connect with me on LinkedIn, as well. So, you can get in touch with me. I will be posting on the comments part of your Facebook Live. So.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, this has been amazing. I'm not on Facebook. Can I contact PALCUS to get in touch? Absolutely. Anybody has questions, you can email us at palcus@palcus.org, and we will route you to Chitra, Kiriakos, and Paul for sure. So this has been amazing. I want to go visit and attend now. And I hope that this has, everybody who has watched has become a little excited and inspired, and if they were doubtful about whether or not to, make the leap and move, and concerns about schooling, that those fears and reservations were now no longer. So thank you, Chitra. Thank you, Kiriakos.
Thank you.
And thank you, Paul. You guys have a great, amazing thing going here, and wish you all continued success. So
thank you so much, Angela. I look forward to your return visit to Lisbon and showing you why I think your 8-year-old can actually get out of the apartment and walk down the street to get a popsicle, because it is possible.
That would be life-changing, I have to say. So that'd be amazing. Well, thank you both. For those of you that are watching, this is recorded. It's going to be available immediately on Facebook. So share. And with that, have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you so much. All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Angela.